Ethan Brooks adjusted his tie outside the massive gates of Westbridge University, trying to slow his breathing. The campus looked exactly like the brochure's perfect green lawns, historic stone buildings, and students walking confidently as if they already belonged there. Ethan paused for a moment before stepping forward, reminding himself how far he had come just to stand here. Growing up in South Chicago, opportunity rarely arrived easily. His mother worked night shifts at a hospital, while his older sister helped raise him after their father passed away. Money was always tight, but education had become Ethan's escape. While others saw limitations around him, Ethan saw problems waiting to be solved. He spent evenings fixing old computers neighbors threw away and teaching himself coding through free online lessons. Now he was one of 5 finalists for the prestigious Westbridge Innovation Scholarship, a full ride awarded to students believed to be future leaders. Thousands applied each year. Only one won. Inside the admissions building, Ethan noticed the other candidates immediately. Expensive suits, confident laughter, parents waiting nearby offering encouragement. Their conversations casually mentioned private schools, international programs, and internships arranged through family connections. Ethan sat quietly, holding a worn folder filled with printed projects he had completed using borrowed equipment from his school's outdated computer lab. A coordinator called their names one by one for interviews. When Ethan entered the room, 3 judges sat behind a long table. Professor Langley, an older man with sharp glasses, led the panel. Beside him sat Dr. Whitman, known for corporate partnerships, and Ms. Keller, an alumna representing donors, funding the scholarship. They smiled politely. "Tell us about yourself," Langley began. Ethan spoke calmly about his background, his passion for technology, and his desire to build systems that helped underserved communities. The judges listened, nodding occasionally, but Ethan sensed a distance in their expressions. Questions soon shifted tone. "How did you access advanced resources, given your school's limitations?" Whitman asked. Ethan explained how he taught himself programming and collaborated online with open-source communities. Ms. Keller leaned forward slightly. "Do you think you'll adapt to an environment as competitive as Westbridge?" The question lingered longer than expected. Ethan understood what wasn't being said. He answered respectfully, describing challenges he had already overcome and how resilience shaped his work ethic. The interview ended politely, but as Ethan left the room, doubt crept into his mind. Something felt off. The judges seemed impressed, yet unconvinced, as if measuring potential against an invisible standard he couldn't see. Days later, finalists were invited back for a group evaluation involving problem-solving exercises. Teams were asked to propose solutions to real-world urban challenges. Ethan immediately focused on a scenario involving city infrastructure failures during emergencies. While others debated theoretical models, Ethan proposed a practical system using predictive algorithms to identify risk zones before crises occurred. His teammates initially ignored the idea, favoring more polished presentations later during group presentations. Another finalist introduced a proposal remarkably similar to Ethan's earlier suggestion, receiving enthusiastic praise from judges. Ethan stayed silent. He had learned long ago that recognition didn't always follow contribution. After evaluations ended, the panel thanked all candidates and announced that the final decision would come within 2 weeks. Ethan returned home uncertain but proud he had reached this stage at all. Meanwhile, miles away, the city faced an unexpected crisis. Severe storms caused flooding across multiple neighborhoods, overwhelming emergency response systems. Power outages spread rapidly, and communication networks struggled to keep up with demand. Local authorities scrambled for solutions as response times slowed dangerously. That night, Ethan watched news coverage showing confusion and delays. Something about the situation bothered him. The patterns looked predictable. Opening his laptop, he began analyzing publicly available data weather reports, traffic patterns, and infrastructure maps. Within hours, Ethan built a simple predictive model. Free. identifying which areas would likely lose power next and where emergency vehicles should be positioned to reduce response time. He hesitated before sending the analysis to the city's public emergency contact email, unsure anyone would read it. But someone did. A city operations analyst noticed the accuracy of Ethan's projections and forwarded them to supervisors. Emergency teams quietly used parts of the model to redirect resources overnight. By morning, response efficiency improved dramatically. News outlets credited updated coordination strategies. Slow Ade. Unaware that a high school senior working from his bedroom had contributed to the solution. Days later, Westbridge University administrators received recognition from city officials praising collaborative academic support during the crisis. During internal discussions, someone mentioned that the predictive framework originated from a student submission. The name caught attention. Ethan Brooks. 2. The scholarship panel reviewed his application again, this time alongside the model he had created independently. Suddenly, the quiet candidate they had doubted appeared in a completely different light. Perverse. Langley studied the work carefully. The system demonstrated advanced thinking far beyond typical high school projects. It wasn't theoretical, it had worked in real conditions. The judges realized something uncomfortable. They had underestimated him. A special meeting was called. When Ethan received another invitation to campus, he assumed it was a formality or feedback session. Walking into the same interview room, he felt calmer this time, prepared for either outcome. Langley spoke first. We recently learned about your contribution during the city emergency. Ethan blinked in surprise. I didn't think anyone noticed. Whitman leaned forward. Why didn't you mention this during your interview? Ethan shrugged slightly. I didn't build it for recognition. I just thought it might help. Silence filled the room. Ms. Keller exchanged glances with the others before speaking softly. Your work directly influenced emergency response improvements. For the first time, Ethan saw genuine admiration in their expressions. The conversation changed completely. Instead of questioning whether he could belong at Westbridge, they asked about his ideas for future innovation, leadership goals, and long-term impact. At the end of the meeting, Langley stood. Ethan, he said, smiling warmly, we would be honored to offer you the Westbridge Innovation Scholarship. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. Years of effort, doubt, and quiet perseverance finally met recognition. Walking across campus afterward, he noticed something different. The buildings looked the same, the students just as confident. But now he felt like he belonged, not because someone allowed it, but because he had proven it through action. News of the scholarship spread locally, inspiring students from neighborhoods like his to believe elite opportunities were possible. Teachers shared his story in classrooms, emphasizing creativity and persistence over privilege. Months later, during a university orientation event, Ethan stood before new scholarship applicants as a guest speaker. Looking at nervous students sitting where he once had, he shared a simple message. Sometimes people don't see your potential right away, he said. But your work speaks even when you don't. The audience listened quietly. Ethan realized then that success was indeed just about entering spaces that once felt closed. It was about opening doors wider for those who would come next. And the judges who once doubted him now introduced him proudly as proof that brilliance can come from anywhere. If only people are willing to look beyond assumptions. Ethan's first semester at Westbridge University felt unreal in ways he had never imagined. Every building carried history. Every classroom held technology he had previously only seen online, and every student seemed to move with effortless confidence. During the first weeks, he often found himself observing more than speaking, quietly learning how people interacted, how discussions flowed, and how ideas were presented without hesitation. Imposter syndrome crept in during late nights in the dorm. Surrounded by students who casually referenced private tutors and advanced programs, Ethan sometimes wondered whether the scholarship committee had made a mistake. But whenever doubt appeared, he returned to work. Coding projects, research labs, and collaborative assignments became his focus. Hard work had always been his language. And here, it spoke louder than background or connections. One afternoon, Ethan joined a university innovation lab where students developed solutions for real-world problems. Teams quickly formed around familiar social circles, leaving Ethan standing alone for a moment. Eventually, a small group invited him to join their project, analyzing urban transportation inefficiencies. At first, they underestimated him, assigning minor tasks like data cleanup rather than system design. Instead of arguing, Ethan completed the work quickly and then quietly improved the algorithm running their model. 2. When the team reviewed updated results the next day, predictions had become significantly more accurate. Confused, they traced the improvements back to Ethan's adjustments. Surprise turned into curiosity, and curiosity slowly turned into respect. For the first time since arriving, Ethan felt the shift happen naturally. Recognition came not through explanations, but through results. Meanwhile, Professor Langley kept a close eye on Ethan's progress. The scholarship committee had not only awarded funding, but also mentorship opportunities. And Langley wanted to understand how Ethan approached problems. During weekly meetings, Ethan spoke openly about his goals developing affordable technology systems that cities with limited resources could actually use. Not just theoretical solutions designed for wealthy environments. Langley realized Ethan's perspective filled a gap many researchers overlooked. Innovation often focused on luxury improvements rather than accessibility. Ethan designed with constraint in mind because constraint had shaped his entire life. Midway through the semester, Westbridge announced a university-wide innovation competition. Students were encouraged to present projects addressing community challenges. Ethan hesitated to participate at first, unsure whether he was ready to stand alone in such a competitive environment. Encouragement came unexpectedly from his teammates, who insisted his ideas deserved attention. He decided to expand the emergency prediction system he had created months earlier, improving its ability to operate using limited data so smaller cities could implement it without expensive infrastructure. Presentation day arrived faster than expected. Standing on stage before professors, investors, and students, Ethan felt the same nervous energy he had experienced during the scholarship interview. But this time, something was different. He wasn't trying to prove he belonged. He already knew he did. As he explained the system, demonstrating how predictive analytics could reduce emergency response times in underserved communities, the audience leaned forward with genuine interest. Questions followed rapidly, not skeptical, but engaged. Industry representatives asked about scalability, professors discussed research partnerships, students approached afterward wanting to collaborate. The project won first place. News spread quickly across campus, and soon Ethan received invitations to speak at technology panels and community outreach programs. Yet the moment that mattered most came weeks later when he returned home during break. His former high school invited him to speak to students. Walking through familiar hallways, Ethan remembered late evenings studying there, unsure whether opportunities like Westbridge would ever be possible. Now, younger students looked at him with the same mixture of hope and disbelief he once carried. During the assembly, he avoided polished speeches. Instead, he spoke honestly about rejection, doubt, and perseverance. He explained how success wasn't about never being underestimated, but about continuing to work, even when recognition came slowly. Afterward, a freshman approached him quietly and said, "People like us don't usually get chances like that." Ethan smiled gently and replied, "People like us create them, Vec." At Westbridge, his work attracted attention from city planners interested in implementing pilot programs. For Ethan, the moment felt surreal, ideas built in a small bedroom, now influencing real communities. But he remained grounded, remembering that the purpose of innovation was impact, not praise. The scholarship panel invited him to a formal university event, honoring donors and students. Standing beside the same judges who once questioned whether he could adapt, Ethan felt no resentment. Instead, he recognized growth on both sides. They had learned to look beyond assumptions, and he had learned to trust his own voice. Professor Langley later admitted privately that Ethan's journey had reshaped how the committee evaluated future applicants. They began placing greater emphasis on creativity and resilience rather than polished resumes alone. Ethan realized that his success had quietly opened doors for students who would come after him. Late one evening, Ethan walked across campus as lights glowed through library windows and distant conversations echoed across the courtyard. He thought about the interview day when he had felt invisible despite all his preparation. The difference now wasn't just achievement, it was confidence earned through experience. He understood that change rarely happened instantly. It unfolded through moments where truth challenged expectation, where effort slowly rewrote perception. The scholarship had given him education, but the journey itself had given him purpose. Looking toward the future, Ethan no longer focused solely on personal success. He imagined building programs that helped students from overlooked communities access technology education earlier, ensuring talent would never again depend on privilege to be discovered. As he continued walking under the quiet night sky, Ethan realized something powerful. Being underestimated had once felt like a barrier, but it had ultimately become motivation strong enough to carry him further than approval ever could. And this time, he wasn't waiting for anyone to recognize his potential. He was already building the future with it.